Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Mr. Olivert. Thank you so much for attending this Zoom. It's a pleasure to have you here. Uh, before I ask a few questions, I want to know about you and a little bit your background because I do some research and I found that you actually had a lot of award when you at the university.
Mm-hmm.
You got number one in Duta Bahasa Sumatera Utara in 2018. Am I right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, 2018. Yeah, 2018.
And I did some research that you graduate from University Negeri Medan in 2019, and you also graduate from University Sumatera Utara. So you had very great and amazing background, Mr. And it's very nice to have you here. And I also found out that you are a teacher of BIPA Kemendikbud. Am I right, Mr.?
Yes, Mr. Rizwan. Until right now, I'm still teaching BIPA, by the way.
Oh, you're still teaching since when you being a teacher in BIPA Kemendikbud, Mr. Like,
I think it is a long journey. I think it was started at 2019.
Oh, wow.
If we count it until right now, it's around 7 years. I think 7 years.
Oh, so for 7 years you also already met and found a lot of people with a lot of
Sorry,
background.
Is that Deandra speaking? Can I hear his voice anyway?
Yes. Am I audible, Mister? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Deandra will be to be a moderator in top meeting today.
No, I cannot hear the voice. What happened anyway?
Hello? Am I audible?
Wait. Try to speak again.
Hello? Am I audible?
Now. Okay. Yeah, you're audible right now. Can hear you.
Okay. And Mr. Because you're a teacher, you also already met a lot of people with a lot of background, right?
Yeah.
For your student. And I also found that you also affiliate or you been teacher in pharmacy faculty in USU.
Mm-hmm.
And also KBRI Phnom Penh and in University of Cambodia and Angkor University and also KBRI Helsinki, Finlandia.
Yes.
Okay. Without further ado, because you're a teacher and actually we're from educational study program, and of course we want to get some information or learn something from you as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of experience. So from your perspective, Mr. Olivert, as a teacher, what do you think about a creative teacher from your own perspective? Because we also know that being a teacher is not simple because we need to face a lot of kind of student and we need to be more creative to engage our teaching process. So what do you think, Mr., about a creative teacher in this era?
All right, that's a very good question, I think. If we talk about creativity in education, I think it's not as simple as what we just found outside of educational scope, right? So some of experts saying like you cannot teach creative itself, yeah. But somehow you can try to compose something more creative by putting up together something like may enhance the way how you teach, the way how you learn, right? So talking about creative teacher, I think like it should be what I have to say, like it should be belong the capability of the teachers trying to adapt him or herself to appropriate context for the student or the learner itself, right? So creative in your mind may be thinking like, maybe you are thinking like you just using such a colorful paper in your teaching method, such a picture, such a games and something like that. But I would like to saying like, before you consider the way how the creative work, you have to consider also the level of your student, right? It is totally different when you teach the elementary school and the higher educational background student, right? Let us saying like teaching the colleges and the senior high school students totally different. So you cannot make the same strategies for them, like you use about colorful paper, use about just like games like you do for the kids, and then you try to put the same thing for the adult learner, right? So talking about creative in this way, you have to find the efficient way, right? And you have also to consider about the appropriate for the material that you have to tap to them. For example, like when you teach about creative writing, I actually have experience in teaching creative writing in faculty cultural science in University of Sumatera Utara. So it is different when you try to teach writing in elementary school. Something like creative is like you try to expand the scope of the material you just teach to them. For example, like in elementary school, you're trying to teach them the descriptive thing, like collecting the animals and then try to figure out which one the tail, which one the head, which one the stomach, and some of their body parts. But in the higher education, I think like it should not be in this same level too. So you have to expand the context. You have to make it broader, right? For example, you go to TikTok and then you have to find several things like, you're saying like FAP, right? Some of thing like is a trend right now, and then you take some topic that is controversial at the time, and then you have to bring it up in the class, and it is I think like this is like the creative way to attract their attention, and then they want to learn how to write something, right? And then after you put something like, for example, Indonesia Gelap, I have to say like this one, right? This is quite a controversial right now, right? And then you have to teach them the creative way in journalistic writing. And then you teach about to teach this to students by departing from this kind of topic. Of course, it will make them think wider, right? Because they are close to the social media. They are close to TikTok. Some of conventional way, they will make it as just like task-based learning that is too stiff, I think. I mean, like, they just give you about, okay, try to find some of literature and then practice writing without giving you a context. But as a creative teachers, I think you have to be more adapt, right? So you have to possess high adaptability, in such a situation. What happened around Indonesia, what happened around the school, you just being worked with, right? So especially you have to know about what is actually the trendy topic between the student background that you teach, right? They're saying like for Gen Z, like for the level university, I think like they are Gen Z, right? Yeah, and then they have several trends that is not even belong to such the older generation, and there is a gap between them, and it's very hard to maintain the communication between those two kind of different generations. So just if you are a teacher, I think like you have to know how to connect between this kind of generation by broadening the context, making the context to be expanding that. I mean, like you cannot two step by bringing about the what I say, like the cliche, cliche, the click topic. I mean, like it is conventional from what you just learned from the older generation, and you cannot teach the same thing, I think. And then you have to think about what is actually the most trendy for them, and what kind of technologies that they are usually live with, and then you have to use this kind of background, and then you have to adapt with that. And then you have to use it to compose your material that you have to teach, and then to compose it also to the context of the language that you have to teach for them. I think that's what I have to say about creative teachers. It's not always about the way how you use such a colorful material now. I think like it is the ability for you to adapt, and then it is like you have to change. For example, you are not a Gen Z, and then you have to change to be Gen Z, and then you know about how they learn, right? And then if you have to teach for the X generation, because I also teach the X generation in BIPA too, and I have to adapt to their generation too, and what is actually trendy between these years at the time, and what is actually they don't like at the time. So I have to avoid something like it's not appropriate for them, right? Just such like Gen Z, if you try to teach them with something like all these perspective, they will saying like, okay, this is so boring, this is so what is saying like so inefficient for me. So I have to find something way better than this. Yeah. I think that's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. So in your perspective, that creative teacher was a teacher that can be adapt in every situation, mostly like that. That's what I catch. And also, Mr., I almost forgot because I very enthusiastic and very want to ask something for you. I forgot to introduce all of my peers in this Zoom actually. And we had this Nawasha and Zuan Sandria, and also we had Fioni Mutiara Persiregar, Mr.
Okay.
Guys, if you want to ask, maybe
so Mr. We have been made.
Okay, Mr. Because you said that previously that a creative teacher was a teacher that can be adapted in every situation. So, and you said that you also have been teach Gen X and also Gen Z, right? And most of Gen Z always feel bored in teaching program, right? In teaching process, they feel bored because there's no fun in the classroom. So, when you teach your student, Mr., what kind of method you probably use to make the learning process be more engaging? Because you said that previously, Generation Z, most of the Generation Z students, they always feel bored when it comes to a learning process. So how you can engage the teaching of your implementation is that?
Okay, I got the point. But first of all, I'm not saying like Gen Z always feel boring for such a process. No, I mean like in certain contexts, right? So they tend to close to such technology advances, you know. So they are totally different with such a generation that I have mentioned previously. It means like some of the teaching's way is not appropriate for them. But if you're talking about the learning process, right? Of course, we have a power because we are a teacher, right? We have a power. I mean, like if you don't learn in my class, so I can give you a bad mark for that. But that's not totally the way I'm saying. Like it is the matter how you try to adapt itself. That's why I'm saying like you need to consider about the generation factor, right? It is different between the Gen X and Gen Z. When you say like Gen Z, of course they have something like familiar for them, as well as to Generation X2 or even Boomers, right? Or even Millennia. So at this kind of point, you're saying like how to make it fun or something like that. And this kind of notion also you have to note in your mind, but this is my own experience, of course. A fun thing isn't always like the most important factor in teaching itself. So even the fun itself has a different definition in my perspective, right? Maybe fun that you are thinking like you always feeling like happy, laughing in your class, right? And then you feel like you can do something good like playing a games. No, that's not fun what I'm thinking about. Even in the most critical situation, I can say like it's also fun too. For example, like you're trying to learn about what is actually racist discourse. You know racist discourse, right? I'm teaching also racist discourse. Not racist discourse, but discourse analysis. So in this kind of point, like you're trying to teach your student how to analyze a text, right? So it is very hard for you to only teach the theoretical way, and then you have to teach them practically. And let us back again to the previous method. I'm saying like we try to broaden the context, try to put the context that is closer to them, which is social media. And then we try to find what kind of racist discourse that you can find in social media. Let us saying like into more specific thing from games. There are some of the racist discourse that you can find in Mobile Legends, for example, right? And then we teach them how this kind of text can be turned into a racist. But actually, and semantically, that kind of meaning is actually general. It's common sense. It's not negative. Even it's, I think, like there is no negative meaning affiliated with them semantically. But when it comes to the context, it becomes negative. So in this kind of way, we are not trying to teach them in the fun that you mean, like always laughing, always playing a games. No, but we are trying to put them into the critical area. I mean, like they have to think about learning is not always like to feel you happy. No, but learning also to make your curiosity to be answered, right? By bringing them into a question that is commonly they are familiar with, but they don't know actually what is that, right? It is common for you like using about such a harass word in social media, but you never learn that actually that kind of word belong to racist discourse. Let us saying like the word of Jawa, for example. Jawa word actually is something like, it is common word, right? It belongs to some of social identity, social culture. But when you put that thing into several chat into a specific games, let us say like in Mobile Legends, it means like you're using such a harass word. So what makes this kind of thing happen, right? And by the reparting of all of the students into such a phenomena, into such a question, I can say like this is also some of fun thing for them, because it makes them to think, okay, I play this game a lot, but I never think like how can this word considered to be such a racist one? Well, actually, semantically or in dictionary, it has a common meaning, right? So this kind of way, like the method you bring the student to the closest thing to them, you can bring them also to such a fun thing in my perspective, and they really enjoy that too. There are so many examples also aside from the racist discourse. For example, we can also bring from the sociolinguistic aspect. You learn sociolinguistic too, right, in your class, right? And I bet like you learn like code mixing and code switching too, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So somehow like you think like, okay, so this is commonly happen, and then theoretically your lecturer may be explained it by some of expert like Ronald Wardaf and some of expert, right? But you can try to put your student into some of interesting thing. For example, you can bring the Jacksonian accent. You know Jacksonian accent, right? The thing is, which is aku suka ini, which is blah blah blah, something blah blah blah, and they try to saying like, okay, this is our dialect. Well, actually, if you are sociolinguist, you can say like, oh, that's not your dialect. You just try to mix or to switch your language, right? This kind of phenomenon also was familiar for the Gen Z too, right? And they can try to bring this kind of problem, yeah. So I can say like you can raise the learning process from questions that if you bring up from the phenomenon, right? What phenomenon happened if you teach about language. Same also if you try to teach about the 4 competencies of language, it's like speaking, writing, and listening, and so on, right? I know like this is not, I'm not teaching like speaking, something like that, but I'm teaching writing. In DIPA, I teach this 4 of competencies. Usually in your classroom, I can say like all of us maybe, include me, when you are in elementary school, you are being taught how to speak in English formally. Well, actually you don't use that kind of thing, that kind of way of speaking in social interaction. That is saying like, you don't saying like when you go to the market, excuse me sir, may I have a pack of blah 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 blah, right? That's be saying like that's the commonly thing that we learn in say in elementary school. And this is also I try to avoid when try to teach the 4 competencies of language in BPA classes. So I try to use about the closest context that in my society. For example, you go to the market, you didn't saying like, excuse me, madam, can I have blah blah? You're saying like, miss, how much is this? Oh, 5,000. Okay, just like that. Very simple, because language is used to communicate, to deliver the meaning, and then you strike to the point and the right context.
Point right there.
Yeah, straight to the point, and then efficient way, and then right to the context too, without babbling, and then that's all. Yeah, and this is I think like I can say like fun too. Doesn't mean like funny thing always make you laugh. No, funny thing also something that make the student think twice, or even maybe think 4 times. Right, 3 times, something like that. It's also I can say like about how to engage your student to be what I'm saying, like to be very happy to learn in your class. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, Mr. Maybe that's all. For last thing, Mr. Because
Yeah.
we're talking about the creative teachers, like so for the last thing, my question is, on your point of view, is it mandatory for teacher to be creative, so they can adapt in every situation? Is it mandatory for them to be a creative teacher so they can adapt, or it's not very mandatory to be a creative teacher? So what do you think about that, Mister?
I think like this is something like overlapping anyway. Yeah, the first I'm saying like creative teacher is like a teacher that can be adapt in some of situation, right? But
Yes.
you cannot try to reverse this kind of definition. It means like so the adaptability teachers means like they are creative. Yeah, in some part. Yeah. There are so many creative definitions, right? It means like when you design something and then you put something new inside and then you have already called as creative. Rather than saying like the invention of iPhone, for example, from iPhone 16, 14, that they only add several or maybe some of features and then you can call as the creative project. Yeah. Yes, that's kind of thing. Many ways from the practice, from the theoretics and from many things. Yeah. But talking about is that mandatory for you to be a creative teacher and then or should be adaptability? I think like both of them is very important, yeah. And teachers should be creative in my perspective. Yeah, it's mandatory because why? And that's why to be a teacher is not an easy task. It's not an easy way for you to teach the student, right? Because you have to have so many skills, analytic, what again, time management and critical, it's many things, right?
Critical thinking, something like that.
And that's very burdensome, I think, like because you have to learn several of materials before you teach to student, and then you have to consider like, are we gonna teach this, and will my student be able to learn about this kind of thing? This material is higher from my expectation, and you have to teach. You have to think about this kind of consideration, and to be creative, I think like it is almost like a smart way or just like a shortcut to what I'm saying, like to prevent such a complex consideration that come to your mind in teaching to ruin your teaching progress, right? So the creative one is the solution. It's like you in creative way you can try to find about alternative solution. You can try to find about such a different material that maybe it's very hard for the student. Then you have to find the alternative material too. So creative thing, I think like all of teachers should possess this kind of ability here.
Okay, Mister, maybe that's all. I already learned a lot of things from you just from the question. That was a great answer, actually, Mister. And what about you, Zuan? You have a question for Mr. Olivert, or maybe Fioni, or maybe Nawasha? You guys had a question to Mr. Olivert? No? Okay, Zuan, there's no question from our peers. Mister, maybe that's all my question to you, Mister, and thank you so much, Mister, for attending this, Mister.
My pleasure.
My pleasure, Mister, to have you here, and we had a good chit chat actually, and maybe we're disturbing your time. Very sorry, Mister.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. My pleasure. Yeah.
Can we take a picture, Mister?
Yeah, sure. Just take a picture. It's fine. I will be happy to have such experience with you guys.
1, 2, 3. Once again. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Mister.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mister.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mister.
I will be stopped.